Foster Brooks, George Burns, Jack Carter, Norm Crosby, Florence Henderson, Rich Little, Dick Martin, Zubin Mehta, Wayne Newton, Mark Spitz, Jimmy Stewart, Demond Wilson, and your roastmaster, Dean Martin. And tonight's very special Man of the Week, Mr. Jack Benny.
Tributes like this honor people while they're still alive. Forgive me for being a little late. He's too old for champagne. The bubbles keep knocking him down. And being a great comedian wasn't Jack's whole life. He loved the violin. He always dreamt of being a soloist with a concert orchestra. 2 years ago, he was invited to Israel to perform at the Israeli Philharmonic. When Moshe Dayan heard him play, he took the patch off his eye and put it over his ear. Ladies and gentlemen, a great comedian, Mr. Joey Bishop.
I want to tell you, it's a pleasure to be on the dais. When they first asked me to be on the dais to roast Jack Benny, I turned it down. I mean, I don't mind roasting stars like Don Rickles, Johnny Carson, Red Fox, but not Mr. Benny. They said that I always said that Jack Benny is my idol. That's true. I always said it. I didn't mean it, but I always said it. I mean, if I'm going to have an idol, I'm not going to have an idol like this, someone who walks like Truman Capote talks. 20 years ago, I saw Jack Benny perform in Las Vegas. I never saw anything so bad in my life. After the show, while he was out in the lobby selling autographs, he asked me, he says, Joey, how'd you like the show? Well, I can't tell. It stunk. So I told him, well, it's better than being idle. He didn't hear too well. He thought I said something about his being my idol. His being my idol. Your funniest line is, now cut that out. Then he has another very funny line where he says, well, which he stole from his wife, Mary. On their honeymoon night, after waiting a couple of hours, she turned to him and said, well... People think he's got such a great, wonderful sense of comedy timing because of those long pauses he takes. What nobody knows is those pauses are gas. Claims that he's 39 years old. He has soup stains on his tuxedo that are older than that. Oh, before I forget, congratulations were in order. I hear last week you freed Rochester. Now, George Burns could be my idol. That's what I call a funny man. Not polite, not blowing his nose during my monologue, but... We're not here to discuss politeness. We're here to discuss humor. You could never be my idol. I tell you this now in front of millions of people, you 90-year-old fiddle player. In closing, I should like to tell the truth. Jack Benny is and shall always be my idol.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Florence Henderson.
Just wait, my darling. Just wait. Thank you, Dean. It's nice to see you. It's really so great to be here, and I can't tell you what it means for me to be here tonight for Jack. You see, I've been living with a secret for years, and each day it just grows more and more unbearable. And, well, Jack, I can't hold it in any longer. I mean, I have to tell you. I don't care. I'm not ashamed. Jack, I want the whole world to know. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack Benny is the real father of the Brady Bunch. Now, listen, Jack, we can't keep meeting like this, in the shadows. I want to bring it out in the open. I mean, I'm tired. I'm tired of having to sneak out to... I'm sure you know I'm only kidding, folks, really. Jack and I are just good friends. And at Jack's age, that's a lot. Besides, seriously, I'm happily married, and so is Jack. Anyway, the idea of Jack cheating is really very unlikely. Jack's lovely wife, Mary, would be the first to tell you. Jack couldn't cheat. That's because he was the first to lead the nation in running out of gas.
Well, it's a real event having George Burns with us to honor his pal, Jack Benny. Of course, it's a big event for George if his cigar lights on the first try. Here is one of the great monologists, ladies and gentlemen, in our showbiz, Mr. George Burns.
I'm going to tell you a few stories about Jack, and they're all true. We've been friends for a lot of years, about 55 years. We've been very, very close friends, and there's a reason for it. I always tell Jack how much I love his violin playing, and he always tells me how much he loves my singing. And that's how we've stayed friends all these years. Lying to each other. Years ago, the first time I met Jack, the next day he called me on the phone, and we were disconnected in the middle of the conversation. And that night we had dinner together. When I walked into the restaurant, he hit the table and he screamed and he laughed. He says, "That thing that you did to me on the phone today is the funniest thing that's ever happened to me." I said, "Well, what did I do?" He says, "Hanging up in the middle of a phone conversation." That's the first laugh I ever got from Jack Benny. Before that, I didn't know I was the comedian's comedian. Now, that happened 55 years ago, and to this day, every time I talk to Jack, I still have to hang up on him. He doesn't laugh at it anymore, but if I didn't do it, he'd think I was slipping. And then we used to eat together every night before we were both married. And eating with Jack was quite an experience. He never likes what he orders. He only likes what you order. So in a restaurant, he had lamb chops and I had a steak. And he looked at my steak and his mouth started to water. He says, "Would you like a piece of my lamb chop?" I says, "No, then you don't want a piece of my steak." Fell down twice. And the next night, we're in the same restaurant, he says, "Your steak looked so good last night, I'm going to order steak tonight." I says, "Good, I'll have lamb chops." He looked at my lamb chops, his mouth started to water. He said, "Would you like a piece of my steak?" I says, "No, then you'll want a piece of my lamb chop." Well, this time he only fell down once because he heard that joke before. And then one night, Louis B. Mayer gave a musicale, and we were all invited. There was Gracie and myself and Mary and Jack. He was going to introduce his new singing star, Jeanette MacDonald. And after dinner, they lined up 2 rows of chairs around the piano. And when Jeanette MacDonald got up to sing her famous song, "Indian Love Call," a hush fell over the room. And I leaned over to Jack and I said, "Jack, when this charming lady starts to sing, it would be very rude if you were to laugh." Well, she no sooner got the first note out of her throat when he fell down and he laughed. I had to carry him out of the room. So he not only ruined Jeanette MacDonald's song, but he ruined Louis B. Mayer's musicale. So you see, I'm not the only one who makes him laugh. Jeanette MacDonald made him laugh, too. And you can't blame him because Indian Love Call is a very, very funny song. Anyway, as I said, Jack, we've been friends for 55 years, and it's time we stop lying to each other. And I know that you despise my singing. Can I tell you something? I still think I sing better than you play that lousy violin. Not so bad, but you're fine.
greatest, Mr. James Stewart.
Thank you, Dean, and thanks for the lift tonight. Dean was kind enough to drive me over here tonight. I'd like to lay to rest the rumor that he sometimes drives under the influence. To be able to handle a car the way Dean does, a man has to be completely sober. Otherwise, he'd never been able to make that U-turn in the car wash. I'm here tonight, though, to salute Jack Benny, about whom it has been said, never has one man given so little to so few. Well, I just want to set the record straight on this thing. This man has done so much for so many, secretly, of course. He's kind of a closet philanthropist. But I'm going to reveal an even more heartwarming secret. And, Jack, I hope this won't embarrass you. I really do. Jack Benny saved my life. It's true. When I first came to Hollywood, struggling young actor, one Christmas, I found myself in the hospital, badly in need of a blood donor. And this kind gentleman volunteered. And as I was getting the transfusion, I thought to myself, what an unselfish man. And when I get out of this hospital, I'm going to have to repay him with a $50 present. And about halfway through the transfusion, I thought, why embarrass him by overdoing it? $25 gift would be less ostentatious. And would you believe it? By the time I had a quart of Jack Benny's blood in, I just said to myself, to heck with it, a Christmas card's good enough.
I love Norm Crosby. He's a real straight guy, but he talks sideways. And he's a real funny man. Mr. Norm Crosby.
Thank you very much. That was lovely. You really said some very reclining things about me. And we are good friends, and I've done your show many, many times. And I must tell you something. Jack Benny, with all the big stars, with all the super upper echelon guys that we've had on this show, Jack is the first one ever to personally phone each and every person on the dais. I mean that. He was the first roastee to took the trouble to be so inclined. And I really did, I thought it was a lovely gesture until I spoke to some of the other people here and we discovered that he was looking for a ride to the studio. I did call you back, Jack, but the phone was, the line was busy. I guess somebody was using your phone booth. Jack Benny is a gentleman. He is probably the only person in the world ever to go to Disneyland and get mugged. But he can really charm an audience. I saw him in Las Vegas recently, remember? We came back and talked. And he had the audience in the palm of his hand, which gives you some idea of the size of the audience. People say that Jack is a bit frugal. You heard all the jokes, right, that my the fellow procurers here said about him. But it's not true. It is not true. He's peculiar. Jack is the only man ever to play a $40,000 Stradivarius with a bow from J.C. Penney. Jack happens to be in pretty good shape. He really is. In the morning, when he hears snap, crackle, and pop, it's not the cereal, that's his bones. Right now, I'd like to borrow a line from Sarah Lee and say that nobody, but nobody, doesn't love Jack Benny.
Ladies and gentlemen, the distinguished conductor of the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra, Maestro Zubin Mehta.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. I have had the rare privilege of conducting the Los Angeles Philharmonic with Jack Benny as guest soloist. That is, of course, if you could call such a thing like that a privilege. I'll never forget our concert in the Hollywood Bowl. The minute Jack walked on the stage, all of a sudden it turned very cold. Although that's what it seemed to be, because the entire orchestra was wearing their earmuffs. All throughout the performance, the audience was glued to their seats. It was the only way we could get them to sit down. There's especially one memorable moment when Jack began a very difficult passage from the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto. Everybody on the orchestra turned around amazed and looked at me and him, because we were at the same moment busy playing Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. There's one particular moment that I shall never forget. It was when the entire audience stood up and shouted, "More, more!" It was just after Jack had announced a 5-minute intermission.
Hey, y'all know my next guest, Pearl Bailey. Pearlie Mae. Pearlie Mae loves you, Jack. She loves everybody. She's got so much love in her heart, there's hardly any room for cholesterol. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a lady who's everybody's favorite and mine, Miss Pearl Bailey.
Now, the reason I'm here tonight, Jack, I tell you, I'm a little disappointed. Just a little. I'm here for you, it's true. But Dean and him said there was going to be a roast. I see peanuts, I see jelly candy, but there's no roast, baby. You know, and I didn't even eat my dinner. I thought that the roast meant we'd talk to Jack Benny and talk about him, and then we'd eat. Roast. It isn't that kind of roast. Oh, then it's you. Great act. She's to sit in that dressing room and hear his act. He talked about George Burns. Then he talked about George Burns. Well, that was his act. That was what it was. Jack Benny's getting on. You know, when I'd go through sometimes at the casino and say, gee, what a great show. This man is magnificent. But Pearl, isn't he getting on? I thought to myself, getting on, that isn't even a problem, baby. Look, I'm waiting. I followed him. It was getting him off. That was it.
Now I'd like to introduce one of the two funniest guys in the entire team of Rowan and Martin. Here's my real good buddy, Mr. Dick Martin, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Dean. I'm very glad to be here tonight because I think if you took a poll of people in show business, they would unanimously agree that of all the comedians alive today, Jack Benny, without question, is the oldest. However, knowing I was going to be called here, I really wanted to learn a little more about Jack Benny the man. So I called Mary, and that's Jack's wife, and she very kindly loaned me his diary. A lot of you probably don't know that Jack keeps a diary every day, and I'm sure he won't mind if I read an excerpt or two, like this day here. 9:32 a.m., woke up. 9:33, rushed to mirror to see if eyes were still blue. 11:03, Rochester came in the room and asked for a raise in salary. 11:04, paid him his salary and raisins. Maybe if I stammered like Jimmy. 1:35, Mary reminded me it was our 45th wedding anniversary. 1:36, had the feeling to go down to Van Cleef and Arpels and buy a $50 necklace. 1:37, sat down until the feeling went away. 3:31, remembered it was George Burns' birthday. 3:22, went to Mount Sinai Maternity Ward, waiting room. 4:38, finally had enough cigars for George's birthday present. What a delight to honor a man like you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mark Spitz.
You know, Jack Benny had a fabulous career in show business. But I was surprised to find out he had an impressive background in many sports. For instance, he used to shag flies in a zipper repair shop.
I don't remember that.
And he also competed in my sport, swimming, in the 1910 Olympics. He entered the dog paddle event and beat Rin Tin Tin by a nose. But his most spectacular feat was as a weightlifter. Not many people know this, but one day Jack snatched and pressed 300 pounds. The lady in question broke both his wrists. A fact that was to affect his entire comedy style. You see, the doctor who set them was from Denmark.
Jack, a lot of your friends in Mars couldn't make it here tonight. They're senile and they got lost. However, we have some telegrams, and I'd like to read them for you here. The first one comes from your wife, Mary. It reads, Dear Jack, please come home at once. I'm all out of dimes, and I have to go to the bathroom. Ladies and gentlemen, a great guy and a great entertainer, Mr. Wayne Newton.
Thank you, and thank you, Dean. It's really great to be here on what I know will be a glowing tribute to a great man, Mr. Jack Benny. I say I know, Dean, because I can see that you've already got your glow started. You know, you and I have worked together so many times in Las Vegas, and I really feel like I've gotten to know you. And, of course, a lot of my friends, when they heard that I work with you an awful lot, they ask me a lot of questions about you. Like, they ask me, for instance, if you wore a toupee. I told them, of course not. You just have cheap-looking hair. And of course, they asked me a lot of personal questions like, how's your marriage holding up? And of course, I was happy to tell them that you really have a great marriage. Just imagine, after 45 years, Mr. and Mrs. Benny still share a romantic glass of wine at bedtime. I know, because Mrs. Benny told my wife that every night she goes to bed with a cold duck.
We have Mr. Rich Little. Now, this Rich Little, he is known as the man with 1,000 voices. But if Mother Nature is going to give you some extras, that's better than getting 1,000 noses. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the best in the whole world when it comes to impersonating anybody, Mr. Rich Little.
To get away from George Burns' cigars driving me crazy. I don't know whether you've noticed or not, but Jack Benny's been doing a lot of TV lately. You know, I guess he got tired of sitting around and letting me do all the work for him. As a matter of fact, Jack is in so much demand lately that when NBC introduced a concept to use show business personalities as newscasters, they came to Jack with $1 million offer. $1 million. And Jack said, well... So Jack ended up doing the news. Hello, folks. This is Jack Benny in New York City with his 1,423rd farewell newscast.
And this is George Burns in Washington. Go ahead, Jack. I think you go first tonight. I went first last night, and he almost killed me. He would have, but it meant plane fare back to Washington.
Now cut that out! Now, here is the news. Benny Kabilski reporting. Today in New York, the mayor handed the city council a new budget for the year. You see, and you know. And the amount was said to be in excess of $4.5 billion. How can anything be in excess of $4.5 billion? What does the mayor of New York plan to do with all that money? Buy Chicago? Gosh, that's a great line. And here from Hollywood is my very good friend to give you all the sports, Mr. Jimmy Stewart. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Jack. I'm here to and the thing is that it just you see that I just don't understand it. It just doesn't.
hurry up! He's worse than I am! Sorry, Jack, sorry. Well, here are the latest football scores for today. 7, 4, 9, 3, and 22. Gee, I still like By Chicago. Good night, everybody.
Here's the very talented offspring of TV's Sanford and Son, Mr. Damon Wilson.
Thank you, Dean. It's a real pleasure for me to be here tonight to pay tribute to... what's this dude's name? Don't tell me, I know. You're that nice Jewish boy who used to be on Rochester's show. I know it was your show. And I know that you and Rochester had a long and happy working relationship together, right up until the time President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. Jack's show did a lot for the image of black people in America. You ready? Before Jack came along, everybody thought blacks were only fit to be shoeshine boys and railway porters. The Jack Benny program proved to America that they could also be chauffeurs, dishwashers, and houseboys. You see, Jack's show represented a real breakthrough for black performers. At that time, the only radio show on the air about blacks was Amos and Andy, and it used white actors to play the parts of black people. But Jack Benny refused to hire a white to play the part of a black because Jack was a visionary. He could see into the future, too. He knew the television was coming, and it would have cost him a fortune in burnt cork. You know I'm only kidding about all this, Jack. I really love you. And I'd give you a great big kiss right now to prove it, but I'm afraid my burnt cork would rub off on you.
Here's a guy who works hard for laughs, and he always gets them. Mr. Jack Carter, ladies and gentlemen.
My goodness, it's nice to be here at this marathon for stuttering. I never saw everything where all the professionals are stuttering, and Mark Spitz spoke beautifully. Jimmy Stewart said, and I remember when Joey Bishop got here, and he was alive and well. But I love Jack. I go back such a long way with him. As a kid, I never missed his radio program, just to hear him. Oh, and that theme song of his, I love to spend each Sunday with you. As friend to friend, I'm sorry it's through. Then he'd come on, Jell-O again. This is Jack Benny. Rochester, Mary, Dennis, Phil. That wasn't a show, it was a damn roll call. And look at all the great people that showed up tonight. All these big, giant friends of Jack's like Dick Martin, God love him, always smiling. Mr. Teeth, you ever see such a set of teeth? He smiles, he lights up a room. One day Nixon gonna dim his mouth. Look at him, I'm starting to stutter now. God bless Dick, he was a bartender, you know. That's right, he was a bartender, then he got lucky with laughing. And look what he did, he gave a break to people like Ruth Buzzy and Goldie Hawn and Artie Johnson. And I hope they don't forget you, Dick. I hope they come around to visit you when you're tending bar again. But he and Dean are the best of buddies, and why not? You ever see a drunk didn't have his own bartender? And I was kidding, Mark Spitz. It's nice to see Mark here, the Jewish Charlie the Tuna. I love that milk commercial. Can you imagine Dean doing that? Everybody needs milk except me. I need booze. And Rich, you're fabulous. You really are. And right after this dinner, I'm taking Rich to a motel. He promised me he's going to do Sophia Loren. And he didn't have to be here tonight, did you, for this abuse? Jack did not have to be here to eat cheap jokes. He didn't need this. His dinner is cheap enough. Look at this. Here with the peanuts. With the plastic flowers. With a rented audience. And a cardboard cutout. Look at this. Okay, a nickel cardboard cutout man of the week. Not even man of the year or the month. Man of the week, right? I don't think he'll last a damn night. Look at him. J. Arthur Rank. He loves doing things for people. As a matter of fact, about a week ago, the Hebrew Home for the Aged came to Jack for a donation, and just like that, he gave him George Burns. They're inseparable. They played golf together. Recently, they were at Hillcrest, and Jack swung at a ball, and that's it. The behind locked. The disc went out, and Jack, he froze. He was like a Buick hood ornament. So George drove him to Mount Sinai Hospital. The nurse came out and said, "You in pain?" He said, "No, I'm a new ride at Disneyland, you idiot." A couple of years ago, they asked Rochester, "Did you ever hear about Scrooge?" He said, "Hear about him? Hell, I work for him." Good night, Jack. God bless you.
Oh, hi. And now, Jack, we are pleased to have with us a man who has known and served you for many years. He's the gentleman who makes out your income tax returns for you. Would you all please welcome Jack Benny's accountant, Mr. Foster Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. It is, friends, a great honor and a privilege for me to be here tonight to pay tribute to that fine, decent, upright, generous human. Humanitarian, Mr. Jack Benny. Did I get it right, Scrooge? I believe you can tell a lot about a man by his income tax return. And so I brought along Mr. Benny's latest tax return. I'm sure that Mr. Benny will not mind if I read a few things. I do this just to prove what an ordinary, honest, straightforward cheapskate he really is. Now, under income, we have $1,078. $1 million from nightclubs, television, concerts, and commercials. And $78 from the return of empty soda bottles he collected in his neighborhood. Now, under charitable contributions, we have a grand total of zilch. But don't get the wrong idea. That's not because Mr. Benny is cheap. It's just because, as his wife once explained, at his age, he can't even give it away. And I would like to conclude by telling you that
Mr. Benny is one of the most generous individuals I know. Last year, I was invited to his and Mary's 45th anniversary party. Jack married her when he was -6. Anyway, in honor of the occasion, Jack threw this lavish banquet at McDonald's. And in the middle of the festivities, a panhandler came out to Jack and said, "Excuse me, but it's been days since I've had a square meal." And with tears in his eyes, Jack looked at him and said, Gee, I'd love to help you, but all they serve here are hamburgers and they're round.
Now it's time to hear from our man of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, with great pride, I give you America's favorite comedian, Mr. Jack Benny.
I don't think I can follow my own auditor. Dean, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm in the most difficult position of any personality that has ever been roasted on the Dean Martin show, because nearly everything they said about me is true. I am cheap, stingy, frugal. I was going to say penurious, but nobody on this dais would know what the hell I was talking about. But I'm really flattered to be here because it isn't everybody who can be chosen man of the week. You have to be listed in the phone book. Now look at this date. Really, now what do I have in common? Let's pick it apart a little bit. What do I have in common with Mark Spitz? I've had a swimming pool for 40 years. It was only used once. My cat fell in it. And it's a big deal. Mark Spitz crosses a swimming pool in 6 2/10 seconds. When I cross a pool, I call Charlton Heston and have him parted. Now, the only thing I have in common with Jack Carter is our first name. I'll tell you how well I know Jack Carter. We met about 10 years ago in a department store on an escalator. I was going up, and he was coming down. He waved at me, I waved back, and a bottle of cologne fell out of my sleeve. Now, of course, you all know that the closest friend I have in this business is George Burns. And we're around the same age. Give it or take a couple of minutes. And we have a lot in common. Now, something like this was mentioned earlier in the evening, but we can't help that when we prepare material. We don't know what they're going to say. But the other night, George and I went to see, and I won't mention the picture, and it wasn't Deep Throat. We went to see an X-rated movie, and we both fell asleep. However, when we went to see Sound of Music,
We both sat on the edge of our seats and enjoyed every minute of it. And like two idiots, we left the theater hand in hand, humming the tunes. And of course, the way I walk, everybody was staring at me. You know, everybody kids me about that. Bob Hope started the whole thing about the way I walk, and he walks like I do, you know. But I've been walking that way for years. We all have our ways of walking. There's nothing we can do about it, but I swear I'm not effeminate. Dean, have I ever bothered you? Now, another one of my very close friends here tonight is Zubin Mehta, the conductor of the Los Angeles Philharmonic. Zubin has conducted many times for me when I gave my concerts, not only here in Los Angeles, but when I played with the Israeli Symphony in Tel Aviv. Zubin, now this is not something I'm making up. Zubin flew all the way from here to Tel Aviv to conduct for me. I would have been afraid to play there without him. Now, asking Zubin Mehta, this great conductor, to conduct for me really takes guts. It's like asking Van Gogh to paint Merry Christmas on the window of the May Company. Now, Dick Martin. Well, what can I say about Dick Martin that Dan Rowan hasn't already said about him? Behind his back yet. Jimmy Stewart, of course, is a personal friend of mine. And he and his wife, Gloria, are great animal lovers, which you probably all know. And they're on the board of the zoo, the Los Angeles Zoo. So every year around the holidays, Jimmy rings my doorbell and asks me to buy a raffle ticket on an elephant. Now, what the hell am I going to do with another elephant? The one I got drives me nuts, throwing his peanut shells all over the living room and everything. I thought Rich Little was very clever tonight with his many voices. But then he always is. The only problem is you don't know who to thank. Or is it whom to thank? In fact, I asked Joey Bishop before I showed him the script. I said, which is correct, who or whom? And Joey said, I ain't sure. So then I asked DeMond Wilson if he knew which was correct. And he said, it all depends on the circumstances which might or might not be mitigating. You all know Wayne Newton is on this show, and he looks good. He lost so much weight. And he's got that long hair now. I wish I could grow long hair. I've tried everything. I've even put bandini on my head. And all I got was crabgrass. Well, I think I've about talked just about long enough. And I must say, Dean, I really appreciated this evening's tribute. Let's face it, all of us in show business enjoy recognition. And believe me, it wasn't easy for me at first to make it in Hollywood. I can't drink like you do. I can't act like George C. Scott. And when it comes to Frank Sinatra, well, good night, folks.
Well, that's our show for tonight. I want to thank all my wonderful guests for being here, and my deepest gratitude to our man of the week, Jack Benny. Jack invited me to dinner tonight. I heard him call and reserve 2 stools at an Orange Julius stand. Good night, everybody. Catherine, I may be a little late. Keep the hot chocolate warm. See you later.
The Dean Martin Celebrity Roast, coming to you from the MGM Grand Hotel in the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Ladies and gentlemen, from the beautiful Ziegfeld Room, tonight's star-studded roast has brought together some of the world's greatest entertainers. They've come from all over the world to be here tonight, here in Las Vegas, in person.
Your roastmaster, Dean Martin. And tonight's very special man of the week, Monty Hall.
Well, tonight we're honoring Monty Hall. I'm not asking you to laugh or applaud during this roast. Just try to stay awake. I gave up a lot to be here tonight. I could have been home watching a TV special entitled Jacques Cousteau, Paper Trains a Whale. A lot of you may be asking why we're honoring Monty Hall. Remember, I asked first. I don't know too much about Monty, but I do know he was born in Manitoba, Canada, and he's about as exciting as his hometown. Manitoba is so square, you can't buy a brassiere without a prescription. But Monty was destined to host quiz shows. Even back in Manitoba, he'd go up to strange girls and say, "Let's make a deal." Tonight we're happy to have Bert Parks with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bert Parks.
You know, as an announcer starting on the 5,000-watt station down in Atlanta, Georgia, I have learned that you can sell anything on television. So I'd like to do a commercial for our Man of the Week. Friends, have you ever tried the new improved Monty Hall? The TV host who has his whole family raving about him? Here's what one satisfied user has to say. I've been using Monty Hall for 25 years. And every now and then, he satisfies me. Sign Mrs. Monty Hall.
Thank you. Now, Miss Audrey Meadows is a real pro. And here she is, the lovely and very talented Miss Audrey Meadows.
Thank you, Dean. You know, recently a national telephone rating service did a breakdown of Monty's Let's Make a Deal show, which seems kind of unnecessary because the show seems pretty broken down already. Nevertheless, these fascinating statistics did emerge. 42% of the men in Encino were willing to swap their wives for whatever's behind curtain number 3. Even if there's nothing there. 92% didn't have any opinion about Let's Make a Deal, but felt that Nixon was the one who should be watched. Of 8 women called in Los Angeles, 7 answered the phone by saying, "It's okay, Raoul, he's not home, come on over." The 8th woman said, "I can't talk now, Raoul is here." And finally, Mrs. Monty Hall of Beverly Hills said, "Listen, Raoul, I can't talk now."
When Rocky Graziano was in his prime, He was probably one of the greatest fighters of all time. Of course, as he reached the end of his career, he was seen on more floors than Johnson's wax. Ladies and gentlemen, still a champ in the hearts of sports fans, Rocky Graziano.
Thanks, Dean. Thanks a lot. I came all the way here from New York for this here mug, Monty Hall. Will you believe this? This is my biggest mistake I ever made since I fought Tony Zell. I don't even know who the hell this guy is. They even gave this guy a star on Hollywood Boulevard. Even Dean didn't have a star on Hollywood Boulevard. He didn't need one. He lies there himself. They try to put me Monty's footprints in cement at Grumman's Chinese Theater. But Monty's so dull, he made no impression. Monty, in closing, let me say your show was put more people to sleep than I did with my right hook.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Gene Kelly will agree with me when I say that Donald O'Connor was one of the greatest dancers in show business. As a matter of fact, when he made musicals for Universal, his legs were insured for $1 million. And that was only for theft. Ladies and gentlemen, a great performer, Mr. Donald O'Connor.
You know, it's a great pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, for me to be here tonight. Of course, there are some critics who disparage Let's Make a Deal. They say the whole show is based on greed, but they're wrong. I'll tell you what greed is. Greed is Walton's having another kid. Greed is Spiro Agnew trying to collect unemployment insurance. Greed is Frank Sinatra asking a lady of the evening if she has any green stamps. And so, Monty, don't listen to those who criticize you. Let's Make a Deal. It's a terrific show, and from the bottom of my heart, there's only one thing that I can wish you. That when you go home to your wife tonight, you find a strange man behind curtain number 2.
Monty, a lot of your friends couldn't be here tonight. They're so lucky. And they sent some wires. I'm going to read a few of them right here. The first one is from Miss Mary Tracy. It says, Dear Monty, I've been standing in line at your show for 18 months. I'm dressed as an ear of corn. I have fallen in love with the man ahead of me who is dressed as a lima bean. Please let us on the show fast because we're expecting a little succotash. Oh, and here's one from Attorney General John Mitchell. Dear Monty, would love to come on your show and win an oven so I can stick my head in it. Ladies and gentlemen, a real pro in every sense of the word, Mr. Gene Kelly.
I especially love the way people in the audience dress up with those big orange feet and long green tails and purple wings. And, of course, Dean is fortunate. He sees those without even turning on the TV. However, Monty and his wife have 3 beautiful children. That's true. He used to have a 4th, but Monty traded it away for a year's supply of dog food and a microwave. There is another, even more important reason why the Dean Martin Comedy Hour is honoring Monty Hall tonight. We couldn't get Peter Marshall.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's with great pride that I present Senator Birch Bayh.
I remember the first time I ever met Monty Hall. I don't know whether you remember this or not, but I'd just been elected to the United States Senate, and there I was right off the farm from Shirkyville, Indiana. You think Manitoba's bad, huh? There I was, and I found myself for the first time in one of these large Beverly Hill receptions. Standing there, nobody looked at me, nobody knew me, and I saw this fellow that looked rather familiar, and I walked up to him, stuck out my hand, and said, "Hello, I'm Birch Bayh." He said, "My name's Hall. I'm sure you've heard of me." I thought for a moment. I said, "Yes, sir, Mr. Hall. All of us in Indiana have heard of you. In fact, I want to personally congratulate you for all the money you've made selling men's suits." It's a privilege to pay tribute to a great friend and a warm human being, great American. Monty.
Thank you, Senator. It's nice to have Art Linkletter with us. He's contributed much to television. Lately, he's been taking it easy. Art's idea of an exciting evening is testing the brakes on a Toyota. Yeah, fine entertainer, a wonderful gentleman, Mr. Art Linkletter.
As everyone knows, those of us in television live and die with the Nielsen ratings. Those are the ratings that tell us how many people we have watching. But there's another very important rating. ABC recently did a demographic rating on Monty Hall's program to show you the kind of people, what makes it popular. Computing the results, they discovered that Let's Make a Deal appeals to almost every kind of person you can think of. For instance, insomniacs like it. Puts them to sleep even in the afternoon. People with cardiac conditions love it because their doctors advise them no excitement under any condition. The Roto-Rooter men. Oh, they like it. They like seeing somebody else go down the drain for a change. And the Gay Liberation Group, they like it because it proves there's no fun in being straight. And Monty's wife likes it because for 30 minutes every day, she knows where he is. As a matter of fact, there's only one group, just one dissenting group. Sorry, the manufacturers of Bandini fertilizer, because they feel it's strictly unfair competition.
Thank you, Art. It's nice to have Jack Carter with us. I'm not saying his jokes are old, but instead of cue cards, they're printed on Medicare cards. Here he is, a real funny guy and a real good friend, Mr. Jack Carter.
Oh, Dean, this has been a hot night, right? It's been a great evening, and if you believe that, Nixon's getting a third term. Oh, boy, it's kind of a nuclear evening. I never followed so many bombs in my life. Hey, Gene Kelly and Donald, you got great delivery in your feet. People talk about the energy crisis. Here's the man who's causing it all. He's always gassed, he's usually oiled, and he's lit up all the time. But tonight, as man of the week, Dean wanted a giant in his particular field. But Bob Hope turned it down. Carol O'Connor said, shove it. And Buddy Hackett said, stick it. So we're stuck with Monty Hall. Here he is, the darling of the menopause set. What really... Oh, gosh, Monty, he never forgets that idiotic show. It's on his mind all the time. I was in a men's room with him earlier. He stood there for hours. He couldn't decide whether to go behind door 1, door 2, or door 3. By the time he made up his mind, it was too late. What a dais. What a group of powerhouses. Senator Birch Bay. Is it Bay or Bay? Bay Bay. You buy Bay and I'll Bay Bay. He's a powerhouse. He's afraid of no one. A couple of years ago, Senator Birch Bay said to Nixon, "We've got to take crime off the streets." And Nixon did it. He put it in the White House. Kelly, what a man, what a star, the all-time great. Oh, danced with Donald O'Connor, he danced with Fred Astaire, and last week he danced with Frank Sinatra. Gene, people are beginning to talk. You even wear your hat a little funny, I've noticed that. What a guy. He's true Irish. Gene Kelly all the way. Never misses the St. Patrick's Day Parade in New York. Every day, every year he's there. You ever seen that St. Patrick's Day Parade? It's beautiful. Just to see 100,000 Jewish people cramming the sidewalks to watch the help go by. But really, it's good to see Bert Parks revived for this evening. Bertie Parks, stuff the music, hot damn. I love you, Jew Silver, hot damn. Kiss my Hermitage, hot damn. I love Bertie Parks, yes, sir. To me, next to Lawrence Welk, you're the funniest man I know. And Art Linkletter, Mr. Millionaire, Art Linkletter, owns the world, the immediate world. He doesn't go to Palm Springs, he sends for it. Art Linkletter, when his Rolls Royce gets a flat, he shoots it. I'm very happy that Art Linkletter and his wife came to my wedding, by gosh, and they didn't throw rice. They throw Chinese people. I sound like Henry Youngman. Let's see who's left. That's about it, folks. Good night. Oh, yeah, Monty Hall. Ridiculous. You ever see that idiotic show? It's embarrassing. Normal people get dressed up like weirdos. And they come down there hoping to win maybe $5 and a box of pitted olives. And then he says, Zonko, and you're out. I know a guy last week showed up as a meatloaf. Monty got so excited he ate him. He had a couple of kids on last week, 5-year-olds dressed like a bride and groom. They were so cute. Monty went up and says, "Hi there, what are your names?" The little girl said, "We're Mr. and Mrs. Smith." He said, "Aren't you cute? Would you like to be on my show?" She said, "We can't. My husband just wet his pants." And then Monty graduated, left Manitoba, Maniwaki, and Manischewitz, and he went on. He went on to Toronto where he joined the Royal Canadian Air Force. And he was so thrilled when Queen Elizabeth visited Canada, stopped right in front of him. She said, "Oh, what an attractive young man you are. How long have you been in the Royal Canadian Air Force?" He said, "Oh, for many, many years, Your Majesty." She said, "And what did you do before you were in the Air Force?" He said, "I was a photographer, Your Majesty." She said, "Strange. I have a brother-in-law who's a photographer." He said, "That's strange. I got a brother-in-law who's a queen."
Here's the king of the game shows, the host of Let's Make a Deal, our man of the week, Mr. Monty Hall.
Well, thank you very much. I don't know why I did this. I could have done a bar mitzvah in Cairo. Audrey Meadows said, "If I put on a funny hat, can I be on the show?" And I said, "You're ready as you are." No, I'm really honored, though, by the presence of a very good friend of mine, Senator Birch Bay. It's always nice to see a politician show up without having to be subpoenaed. And it's an honor to be on the same stage with Bert Parks. You were my mother's favorite, too, Bert. Bert Parks works twice a year. The Miss America contest and posing for underwear ads in the Sears catalog. Rocky Graziano. That's a nice name, too. Rocky Graziano. Sounds like Smokey... No, it doesn't. A great champion, won more than 70 fights, and half of them with policemen. Boy, I'll always remember Rocky in action. Probably some of the most graceful dives I've ever seen. And you remember Donald O'Connor from those Francis the Mule pictures? It's a reminder that in show business, even a jackass can become a star. And the mule didn't do so badly either. Donald O'Connor, you're wonderful. You know, it can't be easy dancing in sup hose and orthopedic shoes. But you're doing it, kid. You're still doing it. And what a privilege to be attacked by the great Gene Kelly. So many people said so many nice things about him today. Gene, you know, was a tap dancer in the days when white folks were allowed to do that sort of thing. Way back then. But I really loved you and Frank Sinatra on that tribute to senility that you recently did. The two of them made a wonderful team. Sinatra with his blue eyes and you with veins to match. Actually, Gene and Frank were too old to dance on that special. They just stood in one place and somebody moved the scenery up and down. And seeing you here tonight, Mr. Linkletter, I have great respect for my elders. I couldn't help thinking of your old show, People Are Funny. Too bad you're not one of them. Jack Carter, as you heard, really, he turned the crowd on tonight. He's a truly remarkable performer. He came up from nothing, and he brought it with him. And, of course, special thanks to Dean Martin. He's here tonight, whether he knows it or not.
My own?
Not yet. I'm really grateful to Dean. You know, I made my singing debut on his show about 1.5 years ago, and Dean really is amazing. He never shows up for rehearsals, you know. Never rehearses a thing. He has a stand-in, do everything for him. Even on his recent honeymoon. No? Oh, that's what I heard.
I didn't do good, but I was there.
As you can see, nothing upsets him. Nothing upsets him. Although the energy crisis had him worried, he heard they might limit the public to 2 gallons a day, and he thought they were talking about booze. But in closing, I just want to say that at first, I wasn't so sure that I wanted this honor. But my wife, Marilyn, said, Monty, if you can suffer the slings and arrows from the great wits of show business and not get upset, it'll be a great step forward. And tomorrow I'm going to take a great step forward. I'm going to look for a new wife. But sincerely, my deepest thanks to all of you people in show business and Senator for coming all the way from Washington. This was a great thrill for me and a great honor. I'll be talking about it for months, even if it's just to a psychiatrist. Thank you very much again.
Well, that's our show for tonight. I want to thank my guests for joining us, and I especially want to thank our man of the week, Mr. Monty Hall. Monty is really a legend in his own time. They're already comparing him to Durwood Kirby. Good night, everybody. I'm on my way home, Catherine. Warm up the hot chocolate.
Martin, Gene Kelly, Joey Bishop, Don Rickles, Robert Wood, President of CBS Television, Mike Connors. Red Fox. Marty Allen. Cass Elliott. Nipsey Russell. Norm Crosby. And your roastmaster, Dean Martin. And tonight's very special Man of the Week, Carol O'Connor. Also appearing on tonight's special roast, Foster Brooks, Ruth Buzzy, William Conrad, Jar Jar Gabor, Senator Barry Goldwater, William Holden, Mayor John Lindsay, Donald O'Connor, Charles Nelson Riley.
We had two disappointments tonight. Bob Hope couldn't make it, and Carol O'Connor could. We always try to get names for an evening like this, and as soon as we announced we were honoring Carol O'Connor, the names started pouring in. They called him every name in the book. And I'm not saying Carol was unpopular. All I know is when he moved into Beverly Hills, 5 colored families moved out. But in spite of his image, this man is all heart. Every summer he goes into the ghetto, picks out the poorest family, takes them to a meadow in the country and leaves them there. And at Christmas time, he's been known to bring a group of poor black kids into his house to serve the turkey and wash the dishes. What mileage this man's gotten out of All in the Family.
He goes right on.
He's got Archie Bunker. I don't wait, I only got an hour. He's got Archie Bunker T-shirts, Archie Bunker lunchboxes, records. Now he's opening a chain of restaurants serving bigot burgers. Let's face it, there's only one Carol O'Connor, and that's Jackie Gleason. Dan Rowan and Dick Martin are two beautiful guys. They've been together a long time. As a matter of fact, it was 25 years ago today that they teamed up and got their first laugh. Tonight, they'll be trying for their second one. Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Rowan and Dick Martin.
Who was that masked man? I don't know who he was. Listen, we're very happy to be here to pay tribute to the star of All in the Family.
Indeed, we are.
Yes.
He's a big star, too.
Carol O'Connor.
He's He's one of the biggest stars on television.
No, how did you know that?
I asked him, and he told me.
He told me. You know that All in the Family is setting such records. It is probably the biggest show the TV industry has ever seen.
Bigger than Turn On?
Not a lot of people realize another thing about Carol. He's a great humanitarian.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
It doesn't surprise you. Well, it surprised a lot of other people, and it says so right there.
We're like Dean. We just keep going.
You know that every Christmas Eve, Carol O'Connor goes to some of this city's finest restaurants, orders 100 menus,
and sends them to the poor people.
Right.
Sends the menus to the poor people. And then he goes back and get more menus.
All right.
I won't give up.
Wait a minute. Do you want to talk about Easter?
Oh,
okay.
I love Easter.
Every Easter, he calls all the. Every Easter, he calls all the children in the neighborhood over to his front lawn for an egg roll.
And he lets the kids watch him eat it, right?
Yeah. What are you yelling for?
I don't know. I figure if you're not going good, just talk higher. I wasn't born every minute.
We're talking about, all the terrible things that he says on that television show about black people.
Yes.
He
means every word of it.
Au contraire. No, the real Carroll O'Connor loves black people.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
He does.
Next card, please.
Uh-huh.
No, he loves black people. Yeah. And if his wife ever finds out, no. And he's also always kidding about the Jews. He loves black people.
He loves black people and he loves Jews? He must be crazy about Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah, well, the thing is that no matter what he says on television, that does not truly reflect the opinion of the man himself. Because the man himself is really... So you should say something nice about Carroll.
I love Carroll O'Connor. He's one of my best friends, as a matter of fact. A man could find no better friend on earth than Carroll O'Connor.
Well, if you have something like that to say about some guy, don't say it to the camera. Say it to the man himself.
You're kidding. All right.
Carroll, I love you. You're just... Will you say good night, Dick? Good night, Dick. Good night.
They were kind of yelling, weren't they? I just said that. Wait, I understand they're going to revive Laugh-In. It should have been revived while it was on. I'm rolling again. You throwing up, Gene? I would like you to meet a man who's an old friend of Carroll's from 30 years ago. He and Carroll used to work together as longshoremen on the docks of New York City. And we've flown him out here tonight to surprise our man of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Joe Kowalski.
Hiya, boss. You know, Mr. O'Connor was my foreman down at the shipyard, and he got the job over all the rest of us because he had the most education, he had the most experience, and he knew where to get the boss abroad. That Mr. O'Connor is a real tough egg, boy. One night we went in the saloon, he got in an argument with a guy, and the guy takes the back of his hand and hits him and says, "That's a chop from Gung Fu." And Mr. O'Connor pulls something out of his pocket, hits the guy on the head, and says, "And that's a crowbar from Midas Muffler." I'll never forget all us guys on that crew. We went to see him in that movie, Cleopatra. And the first time he walked on the screen, he said, "Hail Caesar." And we said, "That ain't our Mr. O'Connor." Then he started running around Rome in a funny-looking robe. And we said, "That ain't our Mr. O'Connor." But then all of a sudden, he turned around and stabbed his boss right in the back. And we all said, "Now that's our Mr. O'Connor." Thank you. Good luck, pal.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Connor.
My good friend Carroll O'Connor is quite an actor. Every week on television, he plays the part of a bigot. But in real life, he's the complete opposite. Really, take it from me. He's a man who strongly believes in equality and brotherhood. In fact, Carroll's whole family has always been completely devoid of any racial prejudice. As a matter of fact, I thought you might like to see some pictures of his family. Here's a picture of his grandfather. This is a picture of his grandmother. And this is a picture of one of his children. Well, we love you, Carroll. Thank you.
We have with us tonight someone who was a great influence on your early life, Carroll. It's your third grade teacher from PS 76. I know where I am. From PS 76
in New York City, Miss Elsie Birdwell.
Carol was always one of my best students, and I like to feel that I had something to do with his success in later life. I have something here that you might be interested in seeing. It's an arithmetic problem that I gave to Carol's third grade class. And Carol was the only one who got 100. This was the question. A subway train pulled into a station with 93 passengers. When the doors opened, the following got off: 17 Polacks, 9 Spics, and 3 Jungle Bunnies. And the following got on: 28 Hebes, 16 Prouds, 12 Chinks, 5 Spaghetti Benders, and a commie Pinko Rat. People were left on the train. And here, in his own little handwriting, Carol wrote down the correct answer. There would be exactly 19 fags left.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Norm Crosby. Carol O'Connor is absolutely nothing like the character Archie Bunker he portrays on television. Carol is an educated man, a man of stigma and depth. He comes from an upper-class family, and early in life, his father taught Carol the basic principle that has determined his entire personality. When he was 7 years old, his father took him out in the backyard, made him climb a high ladder, and told him to jump. And Carol said, "No, no, Father, I will hurt myself." And his father said, "I'm your father, and I say jump." And he jumped. Broke his hip, one arm, and both legs. And his father looked out at him and said, "That's your first lesson. Don't trust nobody." That is why, to this very day, Carol O'Connor is very deceptive about all kinds of people. As a matter of fact, he has extrasensible reception. It was discovered in Europe during the Olympic Games when he was standing next to a tall, thin athlete, and Carol said, "Are you a pole vaulter?" And the man said, "No, I'm Ukrainian." "But how did you know my name was Walter?" "Oh. I guess it's pretty obvious that I am here tonight to make the rest of the panel look strong. Few people know it, and good. Few people know it. But it was the great dramatic teacher Stanislavski who first inspired in Carol his complete and total dedication to the theater. They were coming out of an acting class at the Abbey Theater in London. Settle down now. When an actress grabbed Stanislavski's arm and screamed, "I would like to break off your arm and eat it." Another actress grabbed him by the leg and shouted, "I would like to break off your leg and eat it." A third actress rushed up and said, "Maestro, I would like to stab you with a dagger and drink your blood." And Stanislavski turned to Carol and explained, "Learn, my pupil. To break off an arm and eat it, this for my pupils I would allow. To break off my leg and eat it, this too I would allow. But stick me for the drinks?" Really and truly, This is one of the nicest dingbats I know.
Here's a surprise for you, Carol. One of your dearest pals back east wants to say a few words to you. His Honor, the Mayor of New York City, John Lindsay.
Few people know of the invaluable contributions that Carroll O'Connor has made to our city. He's helped decrease air pollution, he's assisted with our overpopulation problem, and he's contributed mightily to the establishment of better communications among groups. He's accomplished all this for New York by the simple expedient of moving to California. But I don't feel like we've lost a great actor. I consider that we've gained a parking space. Carroll is well remembered here along Broadway. In recognition of his long, distinguished theatrical career, Actors Equity plans to install a bronze star in concrete, marking his regular spot in the unemployment line. Independent citizens groups here have indicated interest in memorializing this great actor, too. Why, just today I received a petition to erect a statue to Carroll in Central Park. The pigeons have already enthusiastically endorsed the idea. So with warm affection and admiration, I salute my buddy, Carroll O'Connor. In the words of Archie himself, congratulations, meathead.
Please welcome the president of the Carroll O'Connor Fan Club.
When the Supreme Court said integrate, they meant everything. Everybody has a great ambition. We want to be singers, dancers, writers, and musicians. I just want to be a mule somewhere in the clover and catch Archie Bunker bending over. I was talking to him before we came on, and I said, what do you think about politics? Can a black man ever become president? He said, yes, if he runs against a Mexican. That we should take our rightful place in society? He said, your rightful place is in the rhythm section of the band. When the minorities integrated his church, he was heard to ask the question, how long can you legally hold one of these birds underwater when you're baptized? He was the man who said that there should be no black astronauts. He said you can't get ham hocks in those little tubes you get out of. First thing you know, the guys will be riding with the top downs and playing the radio too loud. And so I say to you, from all the people in all the black neighborhoods in the world, may you have a winter, a cold winter, with long legs and a short blanket. Bless you.
Thank you, Nipsey Russell. The KKK is going to roast Nipsey next week, and I mean roast. Ladies and gentlemen, with readings from the wit and wisdom of Archie Bunker comes Mr. Gene Kelly.
Took many months to get these readings together. I was very serious. And I quote, well, there goes the neighborhood. I don't understand those race riots. You bring them blacks over here in chains, you give them jobs picking cotton, and this is the thanks you get. Polacks come by their dumbness, honestly. They're like your out-of-town tourists. They go in a massage parlor and actually expect to get a massage. Now, that's not bad. All right, little girl, I don't want to hear no more about family planning. Just mind your pills and cues. Oh, listen, dingbat, the movie rating system is simple as A to Z. In a G-rated movie, the hero gets the girl. In your R-rated film, the villain gets the girl. And in the X, everybody gets the girl. Thank you, Jimmy. Thanks for that. And that's the wisdom of Carol O'Connor. Thank you very much. There's a young man. Your parish priest, Father Michael Donahue.
First of all, I would like to see you convert, Don. Give the Jews a break. Dean, I never heard you sing better. I want to thank Ed Fox for coming to services last week. Now, if you just bring back the silver candlesticks, we'll be beholden to you. I know Carol O'Connor probably better than any other living soul. Sure. You have no lines on my card. If you had any talent, would we be honoring you? Every week we got to help somebody with a comeback. Next week it'll probably be Sinatra. I hear Carol's confession every week. However, because of the seal of confession, I'm not allowed to reveal what I know. Oh, no. If you offered me a few dollars. I wish I could, but I cannot. I cannot tell you about Carol's experience with the albino. The whip and the bottle of wild root tuna. You can laugh, Gene. I laugh when you dance. Oh, the cockeyed dwarf he picked up one night in Laurel Canyon. I can't even tell you about his escapade with the Eskimo princess and the antique chandelier. Although I suppose it wouldn't be breaking my vow to tell you it did cost him almost 400 Hail Marys. In fact, Carol is the only member of my parish who had to get his rosary beads recapped. Boy, that Gentile humor gets big laughs, don't it? I wish I could tell you some of the things Carol has confessed to me. But the only person I can tell them to is the bishop, just as the only person the bishop can tell them to is the cardinal. And the only person the cardinal can tell them to is the pope. You see, in the church, we too have to keep things all in the family.
Mr. Joey Bishop. Now we're very honored to have with us the man who actually made the decision to put All in the Family on the air. The president of the CBS television network, Mr. Robert Wood. Even though Mr. Wood is the president of a rival network, the brass here at NBC sent a large basket of fruit to his dressing room. Lucky for him, he wasn't in it when it exploded. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bob Wood.
Thank you, Dean, and incidentally, I'd like to thank everybody here at NBC. You know, as Don Rickles knows, doing a comedy show is very, very difficult. And increasingly, our audiences are becoming more and more demanding. So if a comedy show, or for that matter, even a show like yours, Dean, should get dull, just even for a second or two, audiences instinctively defect to competing channels. So with that in mind, I'd like to start my tribute off tonight to Carroll O'Connor by offering you a dramatic reading of the Czechoslovakian Constitution. I suppose this is the perfect time to say that there's a wonderful movie playing right now on CBS. Now, Carol, if you're wondering why I haven't addressed myself to you...
It crossed my mind, yes, it did.
To knock the biggest star on the CBS television network. Well, even NBC's not that dumb. Thank you very much.
Carol, there's a lot of your friends and admirers who couldn't be here tonight, but some of them have recorded messages on videotape, and we'd like to play them for you now.
Don't worry, Carol. No matter how hard they try, they'll never really roast you. With your pot, you'll never fit in the oven.
Hi, Carol. I just wanted to tell you how much I enjoy you on All in the Family. You know something? You're almost as good as you used to be with Art Carney and Audrey Meadows on The Honeymooners.
Hi, Carol. As a fellow son of Aaron, I can't tell you how proud I am of you. Thanks to your program, Americans of all ethnic backgrounds, Poles, Germans, blacks, Jews, Italians, Puerto Ricans, are all united now with one common purpose: to get the Irish.
Hi, Car. Gene Stapleton and Sally Struthers asked me to tell you they're terribly sorry, but they can't be with you tonight. But they were invited to an orgy at Norman Lear's house.
Hello, Carol. My sisters and I were watching your program last week, and we thought you looked very familiar. Tell me, darling, were you ever married to one of us?
Carol O'Connor, how much do I owe thee? I want the whole world to know that you're the man responsible for what I am today. Pregnant.
And now, Carol, here to pay tribute to you is the very distinguished senator from the state of Arizona. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Barry Goldwater. Thank you, Dean, and members of the dais. Carol, I've never heard so many nasty things said about a man who wasn't running for anything. Actually, your Archie Bunker character might have a great career in politics. He's in the middle of the road. That is, a little to the left of Attila the Hun. And just a bit to the right of Little Orphan Annie. Archie Bunker's distinctive way of speaking would be an enormous asset in politics. He already sounds like he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. And Carroll O'Connor himself has some of the outstanding qualities of our greatest statesmen: George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Richard Nixon. That is to say, he has bad teeth. His clothes don't fit. And he has to shave 3 times a day. But, Carol, I'd like to thank your Archie Bunker for his support in my last campaign. And I want you to know that I'm still optimistic. There's always an opening for someone with presidential aspirations. If not here, then in South America.
Elliott is truly a great entertainer. I love that gal. I wouldn't say she's fat, but from the front, she looks like Carol O'Connor from the back. Holy kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, the lovely Miss Cass Elliott.
Thank you, Dean. You might have noticed that I'm the only woman on this dais. They invited other women, but I'm the only one that showed up. Frankly, Carol, the women of America are fed up. You've insulted, ridiculed, and demeaned our sex every week on your show, and All in the Family's supposed to be the show that champions civil rights. You big phony. Only once did you ever open the car door for Edith, and you were going 60 on the freeway. In all the years you've been married to Edith, you never took her anywhere except to the hospital to have the baby, and you made her drive. You're nothing but a male chauvinist. You never dress for dinner. You always come to the dinner table in your T-shirt. Didn't you put on your shorts? So, Carol, tonight, on behalf of the women everywhere, I would like to present you with the first annual Male Chauvinist Pig Award. And here it is, the pig. Wear it in good health.
Thank you, Cass. The other night.
Will you please tell the president of CBS if he don't keep his hand out of my peanuts, I'll kill him?
The other night I called Red Fox, and I said, we're roasting Carol O'Connor. Would you like to come? He said, I'd be delighted. I'll even bring the matches. And Mr. Red Fox.
It's a pleasure to be here tonight with someone who is also not a credit to his race. Contrary to what you have been believing in your lifetime, because you wanted to be fair, niggas do carry knives. Thank you, Dean. You know, Carol O'Connor and I have slightly different backgrounds. His weighs about 35 pounds more than mine. However, though, let's be serious. I'm very fond of Carol personally, and I have a great respect for him as an actor. And so I'd like to take this opportunity to deny a false and very vicious rumor that's been going around about Carol. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to personally assure you, no matter what you have heard, Carol O'Connor is not gay.
I killed all my dates for next week.
Who is that? I'm black, but I got some nigger friends up there. Carol is strictly a man's man. Wait a minute, let me rephrase that. What I mean is, Carol is 100% masculine. I had it on sworn, solemn word of the producer of his show, Norman Lear. See, you mustn't assume that a man is in any way effeminate just because he happens to have a girl's name. You know what I mean, Gene? Yeah, I mean, it's terrible the way these stories get started. Apparently, what happened was, see, Carol was doing a show a few years back with Liberace. And one day they were just sitting around rehearsal, and Liberace offered Carol an apple. And Liberace said, and Carol said, yes. And that's how the rumor was born. So I want to assure you all. I got to take that out. We're going back over it because I only say like you all. I want to assure all of you. That Carl O'Connor is a fine and generous man who would give you the shirt off his back. He's a wonderful person, terrific actor. He can play comedy and he can play drama. He goes both ways. Wait a minute. Let me rephrase that. I better go and sit down. Thanks an awful lot.
Thanks, Red. Well, I don't know what can follow that except Don Rickles. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Don Rickles.
Mr. Chairman, first to start off with, Red Fox, you're a black man and you're a credit to your race. Black or white, it doesn't matter to me as long as you don't try to hang around with me. Now that, right off the bat, now Red knows, now, hey baby, the chairman is in charge. The chairman of the Moose Hall is in charge. When the black man wants to stand, he will ask the Jew with courtesy.
I feel the same way.
Doesn't matter. The black men you can see by the seating, their position.
Hey, why are we getting into a race riot while we're doing a show here? The whole audience in the back is going, they're going to be a race riot. Come on, Leroy, let's get in our car and run over a few people. I'm just trying to be entertaining, and it turned out to be a race. Sit down, you Italian.
Gene Kelly just stood up. God bless him. He's a wonderful guy. But singing in the rain is over. Oh, Gene's a great man. 92 to stand with Frank Sinatra and go, singing in the rain. You people see it on camera as I talk to you, and then they go backstage and go, I'm singing in the rain. And Frank keeps going, is the heart working? Is the heart working? Gene, I say to you honestly, and first, I will just say, these are Carol O'Connor's closest friends. Carol O'Connor met these people in my trailer an hour ago and said, you really like me? But Bob Wood, the president of CBS, came here tonight to honor Carol O'Connor. I had hoped a representative, whether it be Dave Tebbett, my dear friend, who couldn't be here tonight, unfortunately. He's in Greece for their annual Golden Water Festival. We got one farmer here from Elko, Nevada, going, the Golden Ward Festival? I'll make you feel at home, sir. Dean, from the bottom of my heart, God has been good to you. God has been good to me, but he's been better to you. Tonight, we are really getting down to the nitty-gritty. Carol, I tell you, Carol O'Connor, from the bottom of my heart, everything you do on the camera is a lot of baloney. Socially, you have said many times about the Jews, the blacks, the whites, the Puerto Ricans, the Mexicans, that you are fed up with the world. And you feel you should have a crown and rule the world. And I go along with that because with your money, I need you desperately. I mean that. But his great words, as Carol, as a graduate of Phi Beta Kappa from Dublin University, from Wyoming University, said to me, if thy love thyself, thy love thee. Thy knoweth Biff I know. And my lovely wife said, he's brilliant. And now my wife is in a state hospital, sitting in a hot tub with a duck. I would like you to know also that there are many guests that they have honored. This has been the longest night I've ever had in my life.
You know, one of the most important elements in any star's success is public relations. We are very pleased to have with us tonight Carroll O'Connor's PR man. He's one of the biggest PRs in Hollywood. Ladies and gentlemen, would you all please welcome Mr. Foster Brooks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Martini. Many people wonder exactly what service a public relation man provides to the star. My duties are threefold. First, it is my job to create. It's my job to create a public image for the star. And second, I have to see that the star constantly receives favorable mention in the press. And thirdly, I must see that he has plenty of broads on the road. With Carroll, the most difficult part of my job is convincing people that he is not like the character he plays in All in the Family. People are always confusing Carroll Bunker with Archie O'Connell. But of course, they're totally different personalities. Archie is a right-winger. And in the last election, Carroll was McGovern's man. At least until Eleanor McGovern made him break it up. People are always mixing up Carroll and Archie. They think Carroll hates people just because they're black. And that's not true at all. I was at Carroll's house one night last week, and he had 2 black people for dinner. And they were delicious. You know, it's a wonderful experience working for Carroll. His success hasn't changed him at all. He's still the same obnoxious slob he always was. Slob? Well, excuse me, at that time I put in an L. Yes, friends, even though Carroll is now a superstar, he never forgets the little people. In fact, right at this moment, he's paying the rent for 3 midget go-go dancers. Carroll's just a regular guy. If you didn't know who he was, you'd never guess that he was a celebrity. Unless you happen to see the star-shaped John in his dressing room. That's where he twinkles. The press is always asking embarrassing questions of me about Carroll. They keep asking, what does Carroll make? And I tell them anything that walks. Incidentally, I wish I could tell you just how the rest of the All in the Family cast feels about Carol O'Connor. I wish I could tell you how Bob Reiner feels about Carol O'Connor. I wish I could tell you how Sally Struthers feels about Carol O'Connor and how Gene Stapleton feels about Carol O'Connor. None of them is here tonight. So I guess I just told you how they feel about Carol O'Connor. Thank you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to present our man of the week, our number one guy with the number one show, Mr. Carol O'Connor.
Thank you, Dean. What an extraordinary group. Red Fox said to me, these people look like passengers in a Fred McMurray bus commercial. I didn't like to correct Red about that, but he really doesn't know much about the subject of buses. Way back when Red was riding buses, he only saw the last 3 rows. I want particularly to thank Mayor John Lindsay of New York for taking time out from job hunting to say a few words for me. The mayor assumed office about the time Dean Martin started his television show. The difference is when the mayor stopped being a hit, he gave up. Gracious of Senator Goldwater to fly in from Washington to be here. The Senate has been very busy working on a plan to get Arizona out of the United Nations. My friend Mike Thomas from the Manic Show is here. How Mike loves his producer for giving him all that action in his scripts. You know, someone is always trying to run over Mike with a car. What Mike doesn't know is that his producer wants to do a variety show with Rickles. Of course, Rickles can't do that. He's not available because Rickles has a contract with Bob Wood to do 4 unsold pilots every year. You want to go see Bob Wood, president of CBS here? Well, Bob got the top job at CBS shortly after he staged the break-in at Jim Aubrey's psychiatrist's office. And my good friend Dick Martin sitting here, you know, he's married to this beautiful young little English girl, sweet, light-hearted, loves everything about America. No, as we say, putting on the dog for this girl. Dick bought her a $35,000 Stutz automobile. She traded it in for a Honda and a case of Dr. Pepper. Thank you very much. Thank you, man.
Well, that's our show for tonight. I want to thank my wonderful guests for being with me and the not-so-wonderful ones, too. I especially want to thank Carol O'Connor for joining in the fun. I don't think it can be said too often that Carol O'Connor is not at all like Archie Bunker. Carol does all he can to help minorities. He wouldn't think of letting a white man shine his shoes. Good night, everybody. On my way home, Catherine. Warm up the hot chocolate.